Hello, and this is the Wednesday edition of Severe Thunderstorm Outlooks. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller. Let's dive into this. We've got today's outlook, which has an extensive area of what you see on the screen here, which is the yellow, the number 2 out of 5 risk probabilities, categorical classification, really. But there's also a level 3 right there in Colorado, Nebraska, and Kansas, where all three states meet. A little bit of a marginal risk out here in the North Carolina, Virginia area, but we'll focus in on this higher risk area here. So Colby up the North Platte over to Sterling, Colorado, kind of forms a triangle that defines where the level 3 risk is. It's not really a tornado threat. It is a wind threat primarily, and the slight risk, the yellow, curves all the way back up into Wisconsin. Now, that area, Iowa and Wisconsin, does have a low but measurable tornado risk, 2% chance of a tornado within 25 miles from Fort Dodge, Iowa, and Storm Lake, Mason City, all the way up through Rochester, Minnesota, La Crosse, Wisconsin, up to central Wisconsin, around Marshfield, almost including Eau Claire. Now, on NATOcast, they do put a 3% probability of a tornado there in southern Minnesota, and kind of a smattering of that 2%, roughly in that area I just showed you by the SPC, maybe a little bit more expansive. Not overall, not a real high threat of tornadoes, but not zero either. Severe wind risk today is the highest. So basically the way to read this chart, the intersection between the black hatching and the red color is where the highest danger is, basically. And here's why, because it's the highest percentage of a severe thunderstorm wind, which is defined by 59 miles per hour or greater. That's also where the SPC has outlined the categories here. So we're looking at a real high probability that the winds here will be below hurricane force, but a measurable probability that they may not be. So if you add this 10 right here and the 5 and the 1, you get 16. So about a 16% chance, basically, or almost 1/5 of a chance that a severe wind in that area right there would go above 74 miles per hour, 75 or greater. CSU paints a little bit of tornado risk in Wisconsin. Again, it's not the overall threat today. Hail, not so much. Wind, they're not really talking about wind for today at all, which I find surprising. There's nothing mentioned here at all where the SPC has gone crazy with their percentages. So there's a real disparity there between the CSU outlook. I assume that is the date looks right, so I think I grabbed the right one. So yeah, that's unusual. I usually do not see that. So, but again, the SPC is the official word on this, so I would be on the alert there in northeast Colorado. Again, parts of western Nebraska, northwestern Kansas. So then on Thursday, obviously we have a stabilizing influence here, high pressure, cooler air, but we have this front range up into the Dakotas risk. Then we have this separate risk along a front from central Missouri on over into southern Indiana, another little risk there around Maryland and Delaware, parts of New Jersey. So 3 separate areas of slightly higher risk. That's the level 2 out of 5. If we look at the tornado risk, it's actually concentrated in Missouri and southern Illinois for the most part. So I live in Springfield here, and I did post a graphic this morning on the general SPC outlook for today, and I'll include this in an update in the Facebook posting, basically. So this is the video, and then I just do image posting. So I'll put this tornado risk in there as well. But if you are watching, there is 2% chance of a tornado from Bolivar and not quite Nevada, but up 65 to Sedalia, and then on over into southern Illinois. NATOcast does paint a little bit of a picture of a 2% risk in that area of central Missouri, and then maybe a 3% risk over there in southern Illinois. As for the wind risk tomorrow, that is just kind of basically hanging out where the slight risks were and almost covering those same areas, basically. And then the hail risk kind of goes up into that North Dakota part of the severe threat with a little bit of a hatching there indicating a little bit of a probability of something bigger than, let's say, 1.5 inches or so, and that's in northern North Dakota. CSU, no mention of tornadoes at all. So a big question mark on that one. Hail, again, maximizing that area, but not as emphasized as SPC would put it. And the wind risk is, again, kind of scattered in that same general area, except not in that part of the slight risk right there. Now, I did go ahead and look at, now StormNet, I always use the tornado product, but there is a wind and a hail risk product with this. So I decided to post the wind risk. It doesn't really show much of a tornado threat for tomorrow in those areas that we were discussing, which was here. But it does show a wind risk area there around Licking and south of Rolla there, almost down to Houston, Missouri. That's basically running about 30% or so. in that area of a severe wind risk, and then also as a line develops there in Illinois on over into Indiana. Finally, we'll look at Friday. A marginal risk, pretty low risk. And whenever you see this, of course, you know the routine. And when we get closer to the event, there could be, patchy areas like there or there that get upgraded to a 2. And even the morning of, sometimes they get upgraded to a 3. It's just, greater distance and time. So the uncertainty is just built in. But once again, the CSU learning machine for Friday is pretty much non-existent on tornadoes and almost non-existent on hail, and a little bit of a wind risk in the eastern U.S., with an emphasis for Virginia down into the Carolinas. Moving into the weekend, Saturday, again, I was emphasizing the last couple of days how CSU is really hanging out there in the Carolinas on their probabilities. Nothing out of SPC yet, but this gives you an idea where it's possible. And that's because there's a big hot dome building over the northern U.S. beginning through this period. And then there's troughiness in the east. Not real strong, but enough maybe to get some organizational wins and organize that severe weather out in that way on Saturday, and again on Sunday, shrinking but still there. And then anything past Sunday, I don't see any yellow 15% probability showing up on CSU's product at all. So here's the supercell composite, last 3 graphics here, July 8th through the 14th. So today for the next 7 days, highest supercell percentages. Interesting little smattering there in Nebraska and Kansas along the front probably. Today's tornado threat is probably connected to that there. And then we look at the next 7 days after that, the 15th through the 21st. Again, hanging out in Nebraska, Iowa, and parts of Minnesota, and basically South Dakota as well. And almost the exact same forecast for the week after that, the 22nd through the 28th. Last couple of days of July encompassed in this. And as you might expect, severe weather possibilities hanging out in the northern plains, although, a lot of times this time of year that gets completely shut down too. So it is interesting that I think there's enough jet stream flow up and around that hot air dome that I think breaks down by that period to get this period active again with supercells.